the headlines of this hour on VTV News. National Assembly mulls over draft law on roads. And durian trading activities boom in China. In our world news, United Nations bid for space weapon ban fails.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Good morning, it is 8 a.m. local time in Hanoi and you're watching VTV News. I'm Huyền Trần with the top stories. Under the chairmanship of National Assembly Chairman Trần Thanh Mẫn, National Assembly deputies discussed a number of topics related to the draft road law at the plenary session on Tuesday. During the session, the deputies strongly approved of promulgating a law to improve the relevant legal system to facilitate resources for investment in infrastructure construction.
According to deputies, the draft law addresses inequities in regulations on road traffic infrastructure, traffic signal systems, traffic organization, and state management of road traffic. However, there are different opinions about the regulations on the ratio of land funds reserved for road infrastructure.
Urban areas should not keep building new or expanding roads within inner cities. More efforts are required to limit personal vehicles, boost development of multi-level traffic and mass transit. Therefore, I suggest that the law should not stipulate in too much detail the proportion of land funds reserved for road infrastructure in urban areas.
There are many shortcomings in urban traffic systems in localities. I propose to supplement regulations on the minimum rate of land funds for road traffic in urban areas, including land for roads, sidewalks, bus stations and stops, taxi ranks, parking lots and logistics centers.
Regarding the type of passenger transport business under contract, existing regulations are interpreted to mean that each trip only carries either a single passenger or a single group of passengers. This content must be carefully reviewed.
There currently exists a passage transport business operating under contract. Specifically, this business operates on fixed routes, catering to passengers on travel on these routes regularly. However, this practice adversely affects law enforcement, fostering unfair competition among transport businesses and potentially jeopardizing traffic safety. Hence, I propose implementing stricter regulations for this type of contracted passenger transport business.
Also on the same day, National Assembly deputies voiced their opinions on cracking down the prohibited acts to ensure transparent and legalized collection of tolls for cars entering inner cities. They also discussed a mechanism to encourage private organizations and individuals to collaborate on upgrading and maintaining road traffic infrastructure.
As of mid-May, the disbursement rate of foreign loans from ministries, branches and localities had only reached 8.58% of the assigned plan, according to the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Transport and the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development recorded the highest disbursement rates at over 10%. Meanwhile, 8 ministries and branches, along with 28 localities, have not yet disbursed in accordance with this year's capital plan. This situation is attributed to difficulties in adjusting investment policies, adapting projects, extending implementation times, utilizing capital, and aligning the capital plan with reality. According to the Ministry of Finance, issues in bidding and site clearance resulting from design adjustments or delays in the approval and payment steps are the responsibility of the provinces and project management boards. The total value of corporate bonds issued in the first 5 months of this year has reached over $1.7 billion, equivalent to 44 trillion Vietnam dong. According to the Vietnam Bond Market Association, this number is an increase of more than 30% compared to the same period last year. Most notably, commercial banks have enhanced capital mobilization through corporate bond channels amid low interest rates in recent times.
This bank has recently successfully issued a batch of corporate bonds worth $118,000 with an interest rate of 3.7% per year for a 3-year term.
In the context of low interest rates, banks have stabilized the balance sheet while enhancing the bank's safety indicators by issuing bonds with long-term spanning 3 years or 7 years.
The real estate sector, which usually accounts for up to 50% of corporate bonds, has seen a surge in corporate issuance thanks to new regulations entering into force. This move has helped fully approved projects access more resources, thereby significantly improving housing supply.
Thanks to the increased corporate bonds issuance, the cash flow and liquidity of real estate businesses will be better, removing difficulties for the real estate businesses' ability to repay debt and to issue corporate bonds.
To get the bond market back on track, more institutional investors and an independent, public, and transparent reference system for interest rates are needed. Riskier bonds have higher interest rates, thereby forming a yield curve in the market.
Individual investors or institutional investors can identify interest rates of the bonds that they are interested in by analyzing the credit ratings of the bonds and the yield curves.
This also paves the way to attract institutional investors, such as insurance companies, pension funds, open-end funds, and corporate bond mutual funds. This will help expand the scale of the market from less than 7% to over 20% of the GDP, like other countries in the region.
The 8th SJC gold auction took place on Tuesday morning with 9 winning bids, as reported by the State Bank of Vietnam or SBV. A total of 79 lots, equivalent to 7,900 taels of gold bullion, were successfully auctioned. The highest and lowest winning bid price in this gold auction was the same, 89.42 million Vietnam dong or $3,512 per tael. As such, the central bank has released a total of 35,100 taels to the market in the past month. The purpose of the gold bullion auction is to intervene in a timely manner, reducing the gap between domestic and global gold prices. This is aimed at ensuring the gold market operates in a stable, sustainable, transparent, and efficient manner in line with the Prime Minister's directives. Vietnam has set a goal to become carbon neutral by 2050, which requires industry to eliminate CO2 emissions. For businesses, not only is implementing emission reduction policies part of their social responsibilities towards sustainable development, but achieving carbon neutrality also holds many opportunities. Many emission reduction projects are being implemented by businesses to achieve both benefits and fulfill social responsibility.
The carbon collection and purification system has helped this factory save more than $1.96 million annually in fuel costs. The factory is also looking to harness carbon in the production of beverages, meat processing, packaging, freezing, and refrigeration.
This year, we will complete phase 1 of the CO2 collection project. This project is expected to supply 100 tons of CO2 for food production daily, bringing in a revenue of about $3 to $4 million annually.
According to the National Strategy on Climate Change, Vietnam aims to have all facilities with annual greenhouse gas emissions equivalent to 2,000 tons of carbon reduced by 2030, and by 2050 to have facilities producing gas emissions equivalent to 200 tons of carbon start implementing the same steps to reduce emission counts. This means that right now, businesses need to start building a specific roadmap.
Following the national target of achieving carbon neutrality by 2050, we have established a working group on energy transition to produce a step-by-step roadmap for reducing emissions.
Sooner or later, all businesses must comply and reduce emissions, so it is better to begin the reduction process early. This means more time to develop long-term strategy to participate in demanding markets.
Participating in the carbon neutral process helps businesses gain more trust from partners and customers. as more people are interested in green, environmentally friendly products. It is also an opportunity to participate in global supply and value chains.
During the durian harvest season, Chinese businesses are increasing imports from Thailand, Vietnam, and the Philippines to meet its rapidly increasing demand. Durian has become the most popular fruit in China for several years now. This favorable condition has provided Vietnamese and Thai durian exporters with unique opportunities to maintain their footholds in one of the world's largest consumer markets. More in the following.
Phie wholesale market in Beijing is known as one of the largest markets in Asia. In recent weeks, durian importers in this market have been busy unloading batches of the fruit. From here, wholesalers distribute their goods to markets and supermarkets in many places. To meet the major demand, Chang traveled to Thailand to sign contracts with durian farm owners to ensure the stable supply and consistent quality.
This type of durian has a very delicious taste. We promote selling branded durians. Consumers' demands are much higher than before. They only buy fresh and delicious fruits.
A few years ago, Thailand was the largest durian supplier for China. This year, Vietnam competes strongly with Thailand in securing market share in China.
Our business mainly distributed goods to major cities. We sell the goods via online channels and at supermarkets. Chinese people love durian very much. If the price is a little lower, the sales would be even higher.
In terms of building brands for farms and fruit-growing areas, Thailand has secured more advantages than Vietnam. The country also has a larger distribution system in China. In Beijing, the price of Thai Montong durian ranges from $7.5 to $8. Meanwhile, Vietnam's Re6 durian ranges from $6 to $6.3 per kilogram. Durian is bought as a precious gift because it's widely promoted as a tasty fruit with health benefits.
Coming up next on VTV News. Ho Chi Minh City considers conversion of commercial apartments into social housing. And forest rangers strengthen efforts in forest conservation. Welcome back to VTV News. Now, to handle the social housing shortage in Ho Chi Minh City, local authorities are considering the possibility of converting abandoned apartment buildings into social housing. However, the proposal has caused concerns among officials and real estate experts.
Located in Binh Chanh district, many apartment buildings at the Vĩnh Lộc B resettlement area have been abandoned in recent years. Local authorities have logged dozens of such apartment buildings in many other resettlement areas. Facing a shortage of social housing, authorities are considering the conversion of abandoned apartments into affordable housing.
The government urged Ho Chi Minh City authorities to step up the building of 25,000 social housing projects for low-income people. However, only 7 out of 37 projects meet the legal requirements and have been implemented. As such, this goal will not be implemented by 2025. The most practical solution now is converting abandoned apartments into social housing.
If resettlement condos remain uninhabited for a long time, they will deteriorate faster and as a result, depreciate in value.
Local authorities should consider the conversion of resettlement condos into social housing. They should map out a plan to renovate the infrastructure to deteriorated apartments, including corridors and rooms, to enhance their safety and quality.
The Ho Chi Minh City Real Estate Association proposed that the Housing Management Agency issue incentivization policies for people who are eligible to buy social housing.
The European Commission, or EC, has rescheduled an inspection on illegal, unreported and unregulated, or IUU fishing in Vietnam from May to around September to October. The Fishery Inspection Department emphasized that in the meantime, the key priorities are minimizing violations committed by local fishing vessels in foreign waters and strictly enforcing regulations. At the same time, authorities must take action for vessel management to ensure eligibility for fishing at sea, in addition to verifying fishery product origins at the ports. A digital tracing plan is expected to be issued to prevent documentation fraud in product origin certification. Higher administrative fines will also be imposed for violations. Rangers are frontline conservation workers playing a critical role in protecting and safeguarding biodiversity and forest resources. Over the past 50 years, forest rangers in Vietnam have made significant contributions to forest protection, serving the communities that live in and around protected and conserved areas. As fires destroyed 500 hectares of forest in the first 5 months of this year, rangers have strengthened efforts to enhance the effectiveness of forest protection measures.
7 ranger stations have gone all out of the protection of nearly 1,000 hectares of forest, including 15 buffer areas in Ba Vy National Park for more than 20 years. Despite their hard work, rangers are still classified as state civil servants. According to Dung, who has nearly 40 years of experience, this professional title has caused difficulties for rangers.
When rangers detect any illegal cases, they are not allowed to handle administrative violation. Instead, rangers must report such incidents to local authorities or district ranger stations.
According to the government's Decree No. 1, specialized forest guards in special use forests and rangers in protection forests are administrative units affiliated with the Central Forest Ranger Organization. They are managed by the government and provincial level agencies.
Since the Decree No. 1 was implemented in 2019, forest rangers at national parks have taken on the responsibilities of specialized forest protection forces. They are not allowed to use weapons and wear ranger uniforms. Therefore, if they get injured during their patrol, they will not be eligible for preferential policies and other benefits or support provided for war invalids and martyrs.
We should submit a proposal to the National Assembly asking the government to consider and recognize the forest rangers' responsibilities as special duties, which require hard work and great efforts. Forest ranger forces deserve more preferential policies.
When they are on patrol, forest rangers may face cruel crimes, and it is dangerous as perpetrators have weapons. As forest rangers work in dangerous conditions amid shortages of support equipment, they are still looking forward to changes in the government's policies. The improvement in benefits will keep forest rangers engaged and committed to their job.
Central Military Hospital 108 has successfully transplanted a heart into a 39-year-old female patient from a brain-dead donor. This marks the first instance in Vietnam where a heart has been transplanted into a patient already equipped with a left ventricular assist device. The patient was diagnosed with end-stage heart failure 5 years ago and had a left ventricular assist device implanted while awaiting for a heart transplant opportunity. During the previous surgery, the patient's pericardium failed to close, resulting in her heart adhering to the back of the sternum. Following a 4-hour transplantation procedure and a partial artificial heart synchronization, the patient's heart resumed beating. Nearly a week after the transplant, the patient's health has shown significant signs of recovery. The 19th St. Petersburg International Book Fair was held from May 16 to 19 at Palace Square in Russia's northern capital. Over 250 Russian and international booksellers took stalls, but new Vietnamese publications still made a notable impression at the event.
The People's Newspaper exhibited a wide range of books and newspapers, backing a prime location for its book fair debut. The display garnered attention thanks to the red Vietnamese flag and images of President Ho Chi Minh. Numerous Vietnamese publications, Russian translated books, and books by Russian authors about Vietnam were displayed.
The highlights of our booth is the introduction of books about the party, Uncle Ho, the Điện Biên Phủ campaign, and General Võ Nguyên Giáp. Notably, the Russian translated works and articles of General Secretary Nguyễn Phú Trọng have drawn many Russian scholars to our booth for research source material.
The St. Petersburg International Book Fair, first held in 2006, is a major event for book lovers and professional publishers. Vietnam's presence at this exhibition in recent years is expected to foster cultural exchange, enhance mutual understanding between the people of both countries, and contribute to developing a friendly cooperative relationship between Vietnam and Russia.
What impressed and delighted us most was the image of President Ho Chi Minh reading the People's Newspaper, which featured pictures of Lenin and Stalin. When the governor of St. Petersburg visited their booth, the Vietnamese delegation printed and gifted this photo. This was indeed a precious gift. Many Russians like Vietnamese publications and wanted to buy them, but the quantity was limited.
I worked at a publishing house for 10 years, where we received orders for many classic Russian literary works, like Pushkin and Lermontov, to be sent to Vietnam. Today, I am delighted to have become acquainted with many modern Vietnamese publications.
As part of this year's International Book Fair, the Vietnamese booth featured a special cultural and artistic program by Vietnamese artists and singers living in Russia. This event is one of the activities of Vietnam Week currently taking place in St. Petersburg, commemorating the 134th anniversary of President Ho Chi Minh's birth.
Coming up next in our world news. Iran begins period of national mourning for President Raisi. And United Nations bid for space weapon ban fails. Now moving on to our world news. Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei on Monday announced 5 days of mourning following the death of the country's president Ebrahim Raisi. The late president died in a helicopter crash alongside other high-ranking officials on Sunday morning. Tens of thousands of Iranians gathered at Valia Square in central Tehran to mourn late President Ebrahim Raisi. The funeral procession began on Tuesday, with events to be held across the country before he is buried in the northeastern city of Mashhad on Thursday. On Tuesday, members of the United Nations Security Council observed a minute of silence in memory of Iran's late president. Lebanon and Syria declared 3 days of national mourning. Turkey, Iraq, India, and Pakistan observe a day of national mourning to express condolences to the people and the government of Iran. The Indian national flag was flown at half-mast at all public buildings across the country. The Iran's chief of staff of the armed forces has ordered a high-ranking committee to launch an investigation into the cause of the helicopter crash. Iran also announced it will hold a presidential election on June 28th. The United Nations Security Council has voted on a draft resolution on the prevention of an arms race in outer space and outer space security, which was prepared by Russia. The draft resolution failed on Monday with the 50-member body split over the move. The draft failed to get the minimum 9 votes needed. Only 7 members voted in favor and 7 against, while 1 abstained. 1 veto can only be cast by the United States, Russia, China, Britain, or France if a draft gets at least 9 votes. Russia put forward the text after it vetoed a U.S.-drafted resolution last month that called on countries to prevent an arms race in outer space. British authorities and the country's public health service knowingly exposed tens of thousands of patients to deadly infections through contaminated blood and blood products and hid the truth about the disaster for decades, an inquiry into the UK's infected blood scandal found on Monday. More than 30,000 people contracted hepatitis and HIV from infected blood and blood products in the 1970s and 1980s from Britain's state-funded National Health Service. An estimated 3,000 people in the UK are believed to have died, and many others were left with lifelong illnesses after receiving blood or blood products tainted with HIV or hepatitis. The government has set out details of a long-awaited compensation scheme for victims of the infected blood scandal. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak also apologized to the victims of the infected blood scandal and their families. Hassad Shabshir, an Egyptian village in the Nile Delta of Garbia, is known for its beekeeping and honey industries, but residents are struggling to stay in business amid growing challenges of rising production costs and climate change.
The village, located between Tanta and MULLS cities, has been known for its beekeeping since the 1940s. But climate change and rising temperatures have affected main crops needed for beekeeping. Other factors like the increasing costs for production cycles have driven away producers.
Bees in the village of Hassad Shabshir, and the village of Shabshir has been present since the 40s of last century. It started by the efforts of the late pioneer of beekeeping in Egypt and Arab world. Thank God, the village retains its character, and it has a strong belonging to beekeeping business, as it is very difficult for anyone to enter the field of beekeeping and then leave it easily, because it is a passion for us. Here all the families in the village are working in the field of honey. If not in beekeeping, they work in the honey trade, in the production of packages.
Badran and his brother Farouk Badran, who own a beekeeping and honey production factory, are among the top producers in the village. The two brothers hope to develop the industry and to expand its exports.
We need a beekeeping authority like the fishery and livestock authorities. I think that when there is an authority, it will pay more attention to beekeeping projects and the problems facing the profession. The profession is in danger of extinction.
Egypt is one of the world's leading exporters of live bee packages, with nearly 1.3 million packages shipped annually. The United Nations designated May 20th as World Bee Day to raise awareness of the importance of pollinators, the threats they face, and their contribution to sustainable development.
Now let's move on to the weather forecast. And that's all the news we have for this hour. To rewatch our program, you can download our mobile app at VTVgo or check out our YouTube channel, VTV4Go. Thank you for watching and see you next time.